Scuderia Ferrari, the most decorated team in Formula 1 history. And at the start of the new millennium, one man brought them unrivaled success. In his 11 seasons with the team, he took 72 race victories and 5 World Drivers' titles. His name? Michael Schumacher. What's up guys, and welcome to the Ferrari motorhome for the start of a brand new career mode on the channel. Yes, this is the F1 2017 Schumi career, where we are going to try and take Michael Schumacher to the World Drivers Championship and bring home World Constructors glory for Ferrari once again. If you do like the sound of that, do make sure to leave a like down below. If we could hit 100 likes for this first episode, that would be great. And also comment your thoughts down below on this series. Obviously, Michael Schumacher is still recovering from that awful skiing accident that he had back at the end of 2013. And I know everyone in the F1 community is willing him on, so yeah, keep fighting, Michael. There now you can see Michael talking to Chris, who is of course the R&D engineer on the game. And they're just sort of talking about how they're going to develop the car over the course of the season. And he was kind enough to give Michael 3,000 resource points to spend as he wishes on the car. So yeah, the first thing was gearbox durability, because obviously don't want to be incurring any gearbox penalties earlier on in the season, especially as we get towards tracks like Monaco, where it's very difficult to overtake. So that was the first 500 points spent, and also some 1,000 was spent on the power unit to try and close that big gap to Mercedes on the power unit front. Overall though, it was looking pretty close between Ferrari and Mercedes on the performance charts. But now all the formalities were out of the way and it was time to finally get down to action for practice. And straight from P1 it was looking very tight between Mercedes and Ferrari, but Mercedes looked as if they were just edging ahead on the race pace, just by a tenth or two at most. But Red Bull, they'll be disappointed because they were the second fastest team at the end of 2016, but they're looking as if they're about a second off the pace at the start of this season. Obviously a lot of new technical regulations as well. Force India though, they'll be happy that they've maintained their status as the 4th fastest team ahead of Williams, and it was all lining up to be a very exciting race weekend. Without further ado now, I'm going to hand you over to Matt for the qualifying report.
So it was the first qualifying session of the season, and the first chance for all of the teams to show their genuine pace around Albert Park. Both Sauber and McLaren had a miserable start to the season, with all of their drivers being eliminated in Q1. Pascal Wehrlein will line up ahead of his teammate Ericsson on the back row, with Alonso out-qualifying Van Dorn, and they will start 16th and 17th respectively. Sandwiched between those 4 drivers is the Canadian Lance Stroll, who could only manage 18th on his debut and was eliminated in his first competitive session. On to Q2, and it was a mixed session for Renault, Force India, Toro Rosso and Haas, as all 4 teams had just one driver that made it into Q3. Sergio Perez comfortably made it into Q3 in the Force India, with Hulkenberg and Gasly also making it through by 3/10 of a second. Romain Grosjean was the final driver to make it through, showing that the Haas is capable of fighting for points on Sunday. Here you can see the drivers eliminated from Q2, with a notable anomaly being Carlos Sainz, who was nearly a second off his teammate in 15th, and the same could also be said of Esteban Ocon, who will line up alongside Sainz. On to Q3 now, and after struggling through the other sessions, it was a storming lap by Michael Schumacher, who rolled back the years to take the first pole of the season, a long way ahead of his teammate Vettel, who could only manage 4th. Sandwiched between the two of them and the Mercedes of Hamilton and Bottas, who should be quick on Sunday, and the Red Bulls will be ready to pick up the pieces. They will start 5th and 6th on Sunday afternoon. So as we look at the results from Q3, it was clear that it was going to be far from Mercedes' domination in Albert Park. Let's get into it.
Thank you very much, Matt, for that qualifying report. You can find the link to his Twitter down in the description. But now it is time to get into the first race of the season. There you can see Sebastian Vettel, who probably won't be too happy with P4 and being significantly out-qualified by his teammate. There is Schumacher, starting from pole position. But the thing with Sebastian Vettel is in Q2, he qualified on the super soft tyres. You can see them there fitted onto his red Ferrari, which means that he could possibly go for the one-stopper. So yeah, we're on to the formation lap now, and you can see obviously the 2 Ferraris split by the 2 Mercedes, with Hamilton leading the charge for the Silver Arrows. But yeah, talking of strategy, For most of the front runners, it's looking like a two-stopper today, starting on the ultra softs and then going on to 2 super soft stints, or possibly a super soft and an ultra soft. Not too sure how it will work, but yeah, with Sebastian Vettel, he's starting on the super softs, meaning he could do a one-stopper going on to the soft tyres in the second stint. But now it is time to get into the racing. The talking is nearly over, and it is lights out, and away we go here for the Schumi career. It's a poor start from Schumacher, getting a lot of wheel spinning already into turn 1. Lewis Hamilton has already got past him. Going pretty conservative there is Schumacher, also leaving a little bit of room on the inside. Fortunately, though, Bottas didn't take advantage of it, and now running down into turn 3 is Bottas going to make a move around the outside? Possibly. No, Schumacher parks it on the inside apex. It's been a pretty poor start there from Sebastian Vettel, as one of the Red Bulls is trying to take a look down the inside. I believe it was Daniel Ricciardo, but sure enough, the top 4, the order of the top 4 has stayed intact, as now you can see Hamilton getting just over a half a second lead through the first sector. So the challenge now for Schumacher is to try and keep in sort of touching distance of the Brit, and there you can see flying through that camera, lovely camera angle, and you can see back to P4 there's a long gap back to Sebastian Vettel. So of course he is on the super soft tyres, whereas everyone else, or sorry, the rest of the top 3 are on the ultra softs. So it could be difficult for him maybe to get those tyres up to temperature early on in the Grand Prix. Looking back to Vettel, he isn't under pressure at the moment from behind, but yeah, as I say, just not being able to keep in contact. Also, he's going to have to try and conserve those tyres if he is to do the one stop, and there you can see in P5 leading the charge of the rest of the pack is Daniel Ricciardo, but notably Sergio Perez up into P6, so it's been a poor start from Max Verstappen as well, but now finishing the end of lap 1, and yeah, it's pretty much the same gap again at the end of lap 2. Also a little bit of fuel saving for Schumacher in these early stages of the race, as Valtteri Bottas in fact takes the fastest lap of the race, and DRS is now enabled at the start of lap 3, so Bottas is trying to get within touching distance, but now later on onto lap 3 we see Romain Grosjean go for a move on there, Max Verstappen, and it has gone badly. That is him out of the race, and it's an early bath for Romain Grosjean. He's going to be walking back to the pit lane. Meanwhile, the safety car is out. Unsurprisingly, on just lap 3 of the season, we have our first safety car, and Schumacher has sort of a decision to make now as to whether he's going to come into the pit lane. Yes, Hamilton does come in, and at the last minute, Schumacher decides to dive into the pit lane. He's covering off what Hamilton is doing up ahead, because of course by the time this that the safety car comes in, it will probably be lap 5 or lap 6, and if he goes onto these super soft tyres, which yes, indeed he does, he should be able to do 2 super soft stints to the end of the Grand Prix, and yes, sure enough, a lot of drivers are diving into the pit lane now, so could be a good decision come the end of the race. We will of course have to see, but now emerging onto the track, you can see Hamilton must have had a better stop, because he's a long way ahead of Schumacher, and there is quite a few cars in between them, so maybe not the greatest decision, as he is behind Fernando Alonso now as they come through the first sector. But now looking back up to the front, and you can see Valtteri Bottas, of course, has stayed out, seeing as his teammate did come into the pit lane. So, he's sort of in between. Of course, it's fine for Vettel because he's on the super soft tyres. But yeah, Valtteri Bottas on those ultra softs is really going to have to bolt, as now we skip to the restart on lap 5 or lap 6. I can't quite remember which lap it is, but nonetheless, not too far from the first pit stops, sort of not taking into account the safety car. Yes, it is only lap 5, so that may play into Bottas' hands, as he does have a few more laps to go on these ultra soft tyres. But now the green flag has been waved, and we are racing once again here at Albert Park. It's a decent start from Schumacher, who's got Verstappen behind him. Fernando Alonso very much struggling with that Honda engine, unsurprisingly, of course, on the soft tyres as well, meaning he doesn't get great grip. And sure enough, Fernando Alonso has been passed by Schumacher, and Schumacher now taking a look at Ericsson, and further ahead we can also see Lewis Hamilton go for a move on Kevin Magnussen. A big lockup from the Dane, or it may have been Hamilton in fact, who tries to bury it around the outside. Lovely move. If he can make that stick, he does indeed. And while Lewis Hamilton is a man on a mission at the moment, as Schumacher has now managed to save quite a bit of fuel. You can see he's plus 0.8 laps whereas he was negative about half a lap, I believe, at the start of the Grand Prix. So the safety car's really played into his hands, and now he is going to try and dive it down the inside of Kevin Magnussen, who once again locks up. Of course, the Haas... Of course, it has some brake issues. It wouldn't be the same without it. But Schumacher, it was sort of a do-or-die move at that point because, of course, Lewis Hamilton is the car ahead, and he doesn't want a car between them for any longer because even after that short amount of time, he's still over a second ahead. But now onto lap 7, Lewis Hamilton is stuck behind another car, but I can't quite see who it is. It's Lance Stroll, in fact, in the Williams car. So I believe he's on the soft tyres, running it long in this first stint, and he dives to the inside, whereas Hamilton tries to go round the outside of the Canadian on his debut, and he has been passed. He is in fact on the super soft tyres, the same as Schumacher and Hamilton, and Schumacher wastes no time whatsoever to get past Lance Stroll. So yeah, it's very much a tactical race at the moment. Of course, it's only lap 7 and we've already had this much action. But yeah, finishing lap 7 and losing about 3/10 on the previous lap. But yeah, can't really read too much into that at the moment, seeing as a lot of the drivers are stuck in traffic. But now Hamilton already sizing up another move for P6, going down the inside. I believe that is Carlos Sainz, and it's a lovely move, no lockup whatsoever. But he came from quite a long way back, of course, Sainz on the soft tyres, and started quite a way down in P15. So yeah, I think struggling to adjust to his brand new car this weekend. And now Schumacher is trying to get the run on the Spaniard as we go now through the middle sector. Is he going to be able to make a move now into the next section of corners at turn 9 and 10? He dives one down the inside. Sainz leaves him the room, to be fair to him, but then comes back in the exit of the corner. So he sort of went for the slow in, fast out approach, and it seems to have worked to an extent, but he's still not got quite the legs to get ahead of Schumacher. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton is just making moves left, right and centre. He's already made a move on Daniel Kvyat, and has barely even, Schumacher's barely even had time to get ahead of Carlos Sainz. But yeah, on to the end of lap 8, and you can see one car into the pit lane. I believe that was Felipe Massa. So yeah, that's pretty much showing how far the Ultrasofts can go into this Grand Prix. Really starting to have the first round of pit stops with cars that didn't come in under the safety car. So now Schumacher trying to go down the inside of Daniel Kvyat, of course, on the soft tyres, and it's an important move to get done, and he does manage to do so. So once again, no cars between himself and Lewis Hamilton, but Hamilton's probably got about a 2-second gap now, and he is effectively... He's not in the lead of this Grand Prix because obviously Hamilton and Schumacher have still got to make one more stop, as has Sebastian Vettel. So yeah, Vettel is in the effective lead of this Grand Prix, but in a net P2, or in P2 at the moment, is that man, Esteban Ocon. So I believe he started on the super soft tyres, so he may be on a 1-stop, maybe on a 2-stop, but at the moment he's lying in P2, and Lewis Hamilton now is possibly going to try and dive one down the inside of him. No, he doesn't, but Ocon locks up, and he crumbles under the pressure on his first outing for Force India, and sure enough, Michael Schumacher is right there, prowling as soon as he gets half a chance. And yeah, Ocon down into P3. Schumacher sets the fastest second sector in the entire Grand Prix, and he's not going to want to hang around for much longer behind Ocon if he is showing that pace at this stage of the Grand Prix. But Ocon holding his own in this final sector. Of course, not many chances to get past in the final sector of this track as they sort of go through turn 14 and now into turn 15, the slowest corner on the track. And now unleash it through turn 16 and onto the pit straight for the first of 2 DRS zones. So he's quite a way behind Ocon. Of course, the Force India with that Mercedes power in the back of it is going to be very difficult to pass as they go now down into turn 1 and through turn 2. That is really where Schumacher gains on Ocon, and the DRS now should surely be able to see him through. Ocon goes to the inside to try and defend, as Schumacher also tried to do that, but eventually it does work, and the red Ferrari prevails up into P3. So just Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel behind him now. But of course, the final stint of the race, that man, Sebastian Vettel, will have to run the soft tyres. So finally, he does come into the pit lane now. Just over a third, well, sort of between a third and half race distance is when he comes in for his pit stop. So there you can see, going past the the commentary box, and the pit lane is Lewis Hamilton and also Michael Schumacher. And there you can see emerging from the pit lane is that man Sebastian Vettel behind a Red Bull. I believe it was Max Verstappen, but now it's all down to Hamilton and Schumacher to fight it out. You know, Hamilton getting ahead of a few cars in that safety car phase has really given him that little buffer at this stage of the Grand Prix. So again, it's probably about a 2 or 3 second gap at the moment. And yeah, being stuck behind Ocon for about half a lap more just didn't benefit Schumacher. And there you can see it's 2.6 seconds at the moment. So that's quite a gap to close when the cars are so evenly matched. But as we go on to the end of lap 15 now, the gap is 5.1 seconds. So yeah, Hamilton at the moment just stretching his legs in this Mercedes. Schumacher still sort of getting used to this Ferrari once again for the brand new season. And at the end of lap 16, are we going to see Lewis Hamilton in the pit lane now? I think we are. Yes, he is. He's coming into the pit lane. So he's still got 13 laps left in this Grand Prix. Of course, though, he did pit at the end of lap 2. So he's been on these tyres for 14 laps, and he's going to do another 13 on these set of tyres. So yeah, pretty much the same. Of course, a lighter fuel load, so should be able to do this. And of course, Schumacher has also been on his tyres for 14 laps, so possibly a bit worse for wear. But now we're going to see where Hamilton comes out in relation to Sebastian Vettel. And there is the red Ferrari. Is Vettel going to be able to emerge ahead of Hamilton? Yes, he does. He sweeps round the outside on the soft tyres. But, of course, Lewis Hamilton, with possibly the slightly quicker car, on the softer compound of tyres and also the newer tyres. So, yeah, I'm sure it won't be long before Hamilton at least tries a move on the 4 times world champion. But out in the lead now is Schumacher, and he knows that he's got to extend this gap as quickly and as efficiently as possible if he is going to emerge, maybe not in the lead of this Grand Prix, but at least in with a chance of sort of getting on the top step of the podium. Now on to the end of lap 18. We've now got 11 laps left in this Grand Prix, and we're going to see the gap back to Sebastian Vettel possibly in a minute, but he was 8 tenths off with that previous lap, so that just shows that he is losing pace rapidly. And now Lewis Hamilton is going to try and make a move, I think, on Sebastian Vettel. He's within DRS range, but no, he doesn't go for a move this time out at the first corner. So yeah, he's going to have plenty more opportunities, of course. Still 11 laps left in this Grand Prix to pick a move on the German, and going now down into the second DRS zone. It just looks as if Hamilton at the moment just sort of persevering, looking for the right opportunity. And now as they go through Sector 2, you'll be able to see just how close that Mercedes is. It must only be a couple of tenths of a second behind, and he's darting all over the place. Surely he can't go around the outside here at the start of Sector 2, but he does. And now through Turn 8, he's going around the outside of Sebastian Vettel. Is he going to emerge in the lead at Turn 9? He does indeed. The Brit, as I've said many times, he is a man on a mission this afternoon, and what a drive it has been from Lewis Hamilton. So yeah, once he sees that, once he gets told that by his team, Schumacher is very much contemplating coming into the pit lane. He was possibly thinking about delaying it until sort of lap 20, lap 21 and going onto the ultra soft tyres, but he's got to react quickly, and also he doesn't have a new set of ultra soft tyres. He'd have to go with a used set that he used in Q1. So yeah, he comes in for a brand new set of super soft tyres, which of course will be newer than Lewis Hamilton's, and it will still be a better compound than Sebastian Vettel. Already, you can see the two of them have gone past the pit lane, and Schumacher is already down into P3, so he's got a lot of time to make up. And it was probably the wrong decision not to come into the pit lane at the same time as Lewis Hamilton. But yeah, only time will tell with regards to whether he is closing down on Sebastian Vettel. So currently the gap is 7 seconds at the start of lap 21. And yeah, at the end of lap 22, start of lap 23, we're going to take a look to see what the gap is now. And he sets the fastest lap of the race, and it is down below 5 seconds. So he's taking about a second a lap out of Sebastian Vettel at the moment. And if that continues, he will catch him before the end of the Grand Prix. And now end of lap 23, you can visually see on that mini-map in the bottom left corner that Schumacher is very much closing the gap at this stage, but it is down to 4.2 seconds, and it was a poor lap that time out. 8 tenths of a second down on his previous best, and he can't afford laps like that. But he doesn't afford laps like that, and he does continue to close that gap. It's down to 2.5 seconds at the start of lap 26. and by midway through lap 28, with just 1.5 laps left in this Grand Prix, he can see Sebastian Vettel ahead of him on the track. It's going to be a race to the end between the two Ferrari drivers. There's a back marker there of Pascal Wehrlein, who doesn't hinder Vettel, but he does sort of hinder Schumacher and squeezes him to the inside of the track. But now, coming towards turn 9 and 10 for the penultimate time in this Grand Prix, you can see that the gap is very much closing on Sebastian Vettel. And what is it? It's 1.1 seconds, so he was outside of the DRS range with just 1 lap to go now in this Grand Prix. Surely he isn't going to be able to even try and make a move on his teammate. It would be way too risky to do so. And yeah, as they go now down into the braking zone at turn 3, he does definitely close up on Sebastian Vettel, but I think it's too little too late from the, well, I was going to say the German, but they're both Germans, but by Schumi in this Grand Prix. So maybe if it had come in a lap earlier, it may have been a different story, and he may have got DRS with a lap to go. But yeah, it just looks as if Vettel has got enough of a buffer now to take P2 on his one-stop strategy. And now you can see coming through the final couple of corners is that man, Lewis Hamilton. It's been an imperious drive from him this afternoon. It wasn't quite pole position on Saturday, but on Sunday is where the points are counted. And he takes victory for the first race of the season at Albert Park. It is victory for Mercedes, victory for the British, victory for Lewis Hamilton. And coming around the final corner, almost in tandem, are the two Ferrari drivers, but it is Sebastian Vettel who leads home Michael Schumacher. Third place for Schumi this afternoon. I mean, it was a good drive nonetheless, but still a lot to work on as they go to China next time out. And there is your race winner, Lewis Hamilton. As I said, a great drive from him this afternoon, and just had the pace on the two Ferrari cars. So, yeah, his teammate Valtteri Bottas on the two-stop strategy, obviously not pitting under the safety car, was absolutely nowhere in this Grand Prix. But that man proved that the Mercedes car very much did have the pace this afternoon, and takes that trophy back to the HQ at Brackley. They will be very happy. But there are two Ferrari cars on the podium and two Germans, so a good afternoon for Ferrari nonetheless. And 15 points for Schumacher, and of course 18 for Sebastian Vettel, are nothing to be laughed at whatsoever. But there you can see the final race results. 4th place went to Max Verstappen, and 5th, Esteban Ocon. Very good for him on the one-stop strategy, and it also worked for Daniel Kvyat and Kevin Magnussen. Meanwhile, Valtteri Bottas all the way down there in P10. A poor race from him, and also no points for the Williams guys this afternoon. Perez, I bet he didn't expect to be outdone by his teammate, but he could only manage P8 this afternoon. And there you can see 2 DNFs from this race. Roman Grosjean, of course, you saw the incident with him, and also Marcus Ericsson, who I believe had an engine problem. Pascal Wehrlein and Stoffel van Dorn were lapped, but they were the only drivers to be lapped. And of course, the driver standings at the moment are looking exactly the same as the race standings did. Now, the constructors standings is what we really want to look at, and there you can see Ferrari are on top at the moment. But of course, it's going to be a very, very difficult fight to keep that up for the entire season. But guys, it has been a fantastic first race in the Schumi career. I hope you have enjoyed it. And yeah, I will be back next Friday for another episode for the Chinese Grand Prix. But until then, guys, do take care. Bye-bye.